Where are the musicians?
That's taped music, sir. A starship on active duty never carries an honor detachment.
William Shatner, the legendary actor who defined Captain Kirk and became one of the most recognizable figures in entertainment history, is now 95 years old. And while the public sees the witty social media presence, the continued convention appearances, and the seemingly ageless energy of a man who's defied time itself, the reality behind the scenes is heartbreaking. According to people close to William, the final chapter of his extraordinary life is marked by profound loneliness, bitter regrets about lost relationships, the pain of outliving almost everyone he cared about, and the knowledge that his fight to save Star Trek from destruction may have come too late to matter. This isn't the story fans want to hear about Captain Kirk.
We've treated you with courtesy. We've gone along with what and who you think you are.
We want to believe that William Shatner is living his twilight years in triumph, celebrated and content after a legendary career. But the truth is far more tragic. William at 95 is a man haunted by the ghosts of choices made decades ago, isolated by fame, and personality conflicts that destroyed friendships, grieving losses that have accumulated like wounds that never heal, and struggling with the reality that time has finally caught up with him in ways that even his legendary ego and energy can't overcome. Let's examine the real tragedy of William Shatner's life at 95. Not the sanitized version, but the heartbreaking truth about loneliness, regret, loss, and the high personal cost of a life lived in the spotlight. The loneliness is perhaps the most devastating aspect of William's current situation. At 95, he has outlived almost everyone who mattered in his life. His 3 ex-wives from his first 3 marriages are essentially strangers to him now. Women he shared years with but who have moved on to their own lives, leaving only the memory of failed relationships and broken promises. His 4th wife, Noreen Kidd, died tragically in 1999, drowning in the backyard pool of their home. William discovered her body, a trauma that haunted him for years afterward. The circumstances of Noreen's death were painful on multiple levels. She had struggled with alcoholism throughout their marriage, a battle that put strain on their relationship, and that William felt powerless to help with despite his resources and desire to save her. The night she died, William was sleeping in another part of the house, not realizing she had gone out to the pool intoxicated. The guilt he carried, wondering if he could have prevented it, questioning whether he'd done enough to help her, reliving the shock of finding her, colored his life for years afterward. His current wife, Elizabeth Martin, whom he married in 2001 when he was 70 and she was 40, has been with him now for over 2 decades. By all accounts, Elizabeth has been a stabilizing force in William's later years, providing companionship and support as he's aged. But the 30-year age gap means that she didn't share his Star Trek years, didn't know him during his creative prime, and can't reminisce about experiences that shaped his identity. She knows the elderly William Shatner, not the young actor who played Kirk, or the middle-aged star navigating fame and career challenges. Leonard Nimoy's death in 2015 was perhaps the most devastating loss in William's later years, made infinitely worse by the fact that their friendship had completely disintegrated before Leonard passed. The 2 men who had one of the most famous on-screen partnerships in television history were estranged, and Leonard went to his grave without reconciling with William, despite William's reported attempts in Leonard's final years to repair the relationship. The reasons for the estrangement are layered and complex. According to various accounts, Leonard felt that William had been dismissive and self-centered during their Star Trek years, taking credit for the show's success while failing to acknowledge the contributions of other cast members.
And with the truth revealed that I am not really the captain, and knowing that you would not be allowed to serve as the captain, then you...
There were incidents where William allegedly lobbied for bigger roles and better treatment for himself without considering how it affected his co-stars. Leonard, who was more introspective and sensitive than William's bombastic personality, apparently harbored resentments that built up over decades. There were also conflicts over conventions and Star Trek-related business ventures, where Leonard felt William prioritized his own financial interests over fairness to the other cast members. And there were personal slights, Times when William said things publicly about Leonard or about Spock that Leonard found hurtful or insulting, even if William meant them as jokes or lighthearted comments. By the 2000s, the relationship had deteriorated to the point where Leonard stopped communicating with William entirely. William has spoken publicly about his confusion and pain over this, saying he didn't fully understand what had destroyed the friendship and that he regretted not being able to fix it before Leonard died. In interviews after Leonard's passing, William has broken down emotionally discussing the loss and the unresolved nature of their final years. The tragedy is compounded by the public nature of their partnership. Millions of people around the world associate Kirk and Spock with friendship, loyalty, and deep connection. The reality that William and Leonard ended their relationship estranged creates a painful irony that William has to live with. Every time someone celebrates the Kirk-Spock friendship, it's a reminder of what William lost with Leonard in real life. DeForest Kelley, who played Dr. McCoy and completed the iconic original series trio, died in 1999. Williams' relationship with DeForest was warmer than with some other cast members, but even here there were reportedly tensions during the Star Trek years over screen time, billing, and the dynamics of working with Williams' dominant personality. DeForest was, by most accounts, a gentle, kind man who didn't engage in the kind of conflicts that characterized Williams' relationships with others, but the friendship was still complicated by the power dynamics and competitive pressures of Hollywood. When DeForest died, William lost one of the last connections to the original series years who still spoke to him warmly, dealing with both a traumatic personal loss and the death of a dear colleague who represented his professional legacy. James Doohan, who played Scotty, died in 2005, and like Leonard, he was estranged from William at the time of his death. The rift between William and James was particularly bitter, with James giving interviews before his death where he explicitly criticized William as selfish and difficult. James felt that William had treated him dismissively during Star Trek and had failed to acknowledge his contributions to the show's success. He also believed William had been insensitive about his health struggles and hadn't shown appropriate care or concern as James battled the diseases that eventually killed him. William attempted to attend James's funeral but was reportedly asked not to come by James's family, who felt that William's presence would be inappropriate given the estrangement. This public rejection was humiliating for William and added another layer of regret and pain to an already tragic situation. To be told you're not welcome at a colleague's funeral because the relationship was so damaged, that's a devastating verdict on how badly things went wrong. The pattern across these relationships is consistent and heartbreaking. William's personality traits that helped him succeed professionally, his confidence, his drive, his self-promotion, his competitive nature, also destroyed or damaged many of his most important personal and professional relationships. He was so focused on his own success and on projecting strength and confidence that he often failed to consider how his behavior affected others, or to maintain the empathy and humility that sustain long-term friendships. At 95, William is left as essentially the last survivor of the original series main cast. Nichelle Nichols passed away in 2022 after years of declining health, including dementia that robbed her of memories and abilities long before her death. George Takei and Walter Koenig are still alive, but William's relationships with them have been strained for decades. Takei, in particular, has been publicly critical of William for years, describing him in interviews and in his autobiography as difficult, egotistical, and insensitive during their time working together. Takei has told stories about William demanding changes to scripts that would give him more prominence at the expense of other characters, about William being dismissive toward cast members he considered less important, and about William failing to stand up for the cast when they were facing difficult working conditions or unfair treatment. The conflict between William and George has played out publicly through interviews and social media exchanges that have often been uncomfortable to witness. Two men in their 90s engaging in public disputes about events from 60 years ago should be beneath them, but the unresolved resentments continue to surface. William has alternated between dismissing George's criticisms as exaggerated and expressing bewilderment about why George harbors such animosity. George, for his part, has made clear that his negative opinion of William is based on years of direct experience and isn't going to change. Walter Koenig has been more diplomatic than Takei, but has also made comments over the years suggesting that working with William was challenging and that William's behavior created tensions within the cast. The fact that multiple cast members, not just one or two, have similar stories about William suggests that the problems were real and consistent rather than just personality clashes or misunderstandings. This means that William at 95 is isolated from the Star Trek family that should be his community. The people who shared the experience that defined his life are either dead, estranged, or distant. He can't call up his old castmates and reminisce or find comfort in shared memories. That particular form of loneliness, being the last one standing from something legendary but having no friends left who were part of it, is uniquely painful. The regrets about his family life add another dimension to William's tragedy. He has 3 daughters from his first marriage to Gloria Rand: Leslie, Elizabeth, and Melanie. By William's own admission in interviews and in his autobiography, he was largely absent during their childhoods because he was consumed with building his career. He was on the road constantly doing theater and television work, then Star Trek consumed years of his life, then he was doing movies and other projects that kept him away from home. The daughters grew up essentially raised by their mother after William and Gloria's divorce in 1969. William has spoken about the guilt he feels regarding his absence and about how he missed crucial moments in their lives: birthdays, school events, the day-to-day interactions that build parent-child bonds. He's described realizing too late that he'd prioritized fame and career success over being present for his children, and that by the time he understood the cost, the damage was already done. His relationships with his daughters as adults have been complicated by this early absence and by the divorce's impact on the family. While they maintain contact, and William has grandchildren and even great-grandchildren that he sees, there's reportedly a distance there, a sense of relationships that could have been deeper and warmer if William had made different choices decades ago. You can't get back the years you missed, and you can't undo the pain caused by absence and divided attention. William's second marriage to Marcy Lafferty lasted from 1973 to 1996. And by various accounts, it was troubled for years before the eventual divorce. There were no children from this marriage, but the long duration and difficult ending added to William's pattern of failed relationships. His third marriage to Noreen Kidd from 1997 to her death in 1999 was marked by her struggles with alcoholism and the ultimate tragedy of her death. That William didn't find a stable, lasting marriage until his 70s, until his 4th attempt, speaks to decades of relationship dysfunction and personal cost. Each divorce represents not just a failed marriage, but years of investment, conflict, pain, and aftermath that takes emotional tolls that accumulate over time. At 95, William can look back at 70 years of romantic relationships and see mostly failure, pain, and loss, with stability only coming very late in life when most of his life was already lived. The physical decline is another aspect of the tragedy that William tries heroically to conceal but can't completely overcome. At 95, even with remarkable genes and a lifetime of staying active, William is experiencing the inevitable deterioration that comes with extreme old age. He's had prostate cancer that was treated successfully, but that required ongoing monitoring. He's had various surgeries over the years for different ailments. He deals with chronic pain from decades of physical activity and from the simple reality of a body that's been functioning for nearly a century. William's continued horse riding and physical activity at 95 is impressive and admirable, but it's also a form of denial, a refusal to accept the limitations that age imposes. According to people who know him, William pushes himself physically because he's terrified of becoming sedentary or infirm, because he associates physical limitations with giving up on life. Captain Kirk never gave up, never accepted defeat, and William has internalized that to the point where he can't allow himself to slow down or acknowledge that he needs to be more careful. But that constant pushing comes at a cost. There are reports of William experiencing pain that he hides from public view, of needing assistance with certain activities that he once did easily, of dealing with the frustrations of a body that no longer responds the way it did even a decade ago. Every physical limitation is a reminder that time is catching up, that the body that carried him through 95 years is wearing out, and that no amount of willpower can stop the aging process indefinitely. The cognitive changes that come with extreme old age are also something William appears to be confronting. While he's still sharp and witty in interviews and public appearances, people close to him report moments of forgetfulness, times when he needs prompting or clarification, occasions when his memory for recent events isn't what it used to be. These are normal changes. At 95, most people don't live that long, and those who do almost universally experience some cognitive decline. For someone whose career and identity are built on mental quickness, verbal dexterity, and sharp wit, any cognitive slipping is frightening and frustrating. William has spent his life being the smartest person in the room, dominating conversations, delivering cutting remarks, and clever responses. To find those abilities diminishing, even slightly, even normally for age, is a loss of self that's difficult to accept. The financial anxiety that William experiences is another unexpected element of tragedy. Despite earning millions over his career, and despite having substantial wealth by any normal measure, William has never felt financially secure. This stems partly from growing up during the Depression and developing a scarcity mindset that never left him, partly from going through expensive divorces and seeing large portions of his wealth go to ex-wives, and partly from personality traits that make him anxious about money regardless of how much he has. William has continued working into his 90s not just because he enjoys it, but because he feels compelled to keep earning. He's done commercials, voice work, conventions, any opportunities that come along, partly out of fear that if he stops working, the money will stop coming, and he'll somehow end up without enough. This isn't rational. He's wealthy enough to live comfortably for whatever time he has left. But the anxiety persists nonetheless. There's something sad about a 95-year-old legend still hustling for work out of financial anxiety when he should be able to relax and enjoy the fruits of his labor. William should be able to sit back and know that he's set, that his wife is provided for, that his children and grandchildren are fine. But instead, he's still checking his bank accounts, still worrying about money, still unable to feel secure despite all evidence that he has more than enough. The ego that defined William throughout his career has also become a source of tragedy in his final years. William's legendary self-confidence, his absolute belief in his own talent and importance, his willingness to promote himself aggressively, these traits helped him survive and thrive in a brutal industry that chews up insecure people. But they also made him difficult to work with, alienated colleagues, destroyed friendships, and created a reputation that follows him decades later. At 95, there are signs that William has developed more self-awareness about how his ego affected his life and relationships. He's made comments in recent interviews acknowledging that he wasn't always easy to work with, that he was self-centered in ways that hurt people, that he wishes he'd been more generous and less competitive. But this self-awareness at 95 is tragically late. It can't repair the damaged relationships or undo decades of behavior that pushed people away. The isolation this creates is profound in ways that fame can't alleviate. William is recognized everywhere he goes. People approach him constantly wanting autographs, wanting to tell him what Star Trek meant to them, wanting to share their memories of watching him as Captain Kirk. Convention appearances bring thousands of fans who cheer and applaud and celebrate him. But none of this is genuine connection. These are superficial interactions with strangers who know Captain Kirk, but don't know William Shatner, the person. Fame provides recognition and admiration, but not intimacy or friendship. The fans who love Captain Kirk don't know that William is lonely, that he carries regrets, that he wishes he'd made different choices. They see the legend, not the man. And while the adulation is gratifying on some level, it can't fill the void left by authentic friendships and deep relationships that were lost or never formed. William has spoken in interviews about the loneliness of fame, about being surrounded by people who want something from him, an autograph, a photo, a piece of his time and attention, but who don't know him or care about him beyond his celebrity. He's described feeling like he's performing all the time, that he can never fully relax or be himself because he's always William Shatner to the outside world. That performance becomes exhausting, and the knowledge that almost no one really knows you beneath the performance is isolating. The Star Trek legacy itself is a complicated source of both pride and pain for William. On one hand, Star Trek gave him immortality. He created a character that will be remembered and celebrated for as long as people watch television or movies. Captain Kirk is an icon that transcends the show itself and has become part of cultural mythology. Generations of people have been inspired by Kirk's leadership, courage, and refusal to accept no-win scenarios. But Star Trek also typecast William for years, making it difficult for him to get other roles because casting directors and audiences couldn't see him as anyone other than Kirk. He spent years fighting against that typecasting, taking roles in everything from horror movies to comedies to dramatic series, trying to prove his range and versatility. Some of those efforts succeeded. His work on Boston Legal later in his career showed his dramatic and comedic range, but the shadow of Kirk never fully lifted. There's also the burden of being expected to embody Kirk's qualities in real life. Fans expect William to be heroic, wise, strong, infallible, all the qualities that made Kirk great. But William is just a man with flaws, insecurities, and failures like anyone else. The gap between the idealized character and the complicated reality creates pressure and disappointment. William can never fully live up to Kirk, and fans who meet him sometimes come away disappointed that he isn't the hero they imagined. At 95, when William reflects on his life and career, the fact that his obituary will lead with Captain Kirk and Star Trek, not with his complete body of work, not with his personal qualities or relationships, not with who he was as a husband or father, is probably bittersweet. He's proud of Kirk and grateful for what Star Trek gave him, but there's also sadness in being reduced to one role, one character, one piece of work, despite a 6-decade career. The recent Star Trek controversies and Williams' public criticism of Starfleet Academy also reveal tragedy in how his relationship with the franchise has evolved. William fought to protect Star Trek's legacy because he genuinely cares about it despite all the complications. He couldn't stay silent watching the franchise he helped build being destroyed by what he perceived as incompetence and misguided creative choices. His criticism came from love for Star Trek.
Operation orders were proceeding at top warp speed to the planet Ardana, where the only known source of Xenite exists.
And from a sense of responsibility as one of its creators. But that criticism has also made him controversial in modern Star Trek fandom. Younger fans who've grown up with Discovery, Picard, and newer Trek sometimes see William as a bitter old man complaining about diversity and change, rather than as a legend protecting something valuable. They don't necessarily understand or appreciate the original series' contributions, or recognize that William's criticisms are about quality and faithfulness to core values, rather than about opposing progress. The generational divide must be painful for William. He helped create something revolutionary and beloved, but newer fans sometimes dismiss him or see him as an obstacle to Star Trek's evolution. His attempts to save the franchise from what he sees as destruction are met with resistance and accusations of being out of touch or reactionary. That lack of respect from people who should be grateful for the foundation he helped build is insulting and sad. The confrontation with his own mortality at 95 is also something William can't avoid or deny despite his best efforts. Every birthday at this age is statistically improbable. Most people don't reach 95, and those who do are defying actuarial expectations. William has buried 3 wives, countless friends and colleagues, family members, and an entire generation of contemporaries. He's attended more funerals than anyone should have to attend. He knows intellectually and viscerally that his time is limited. Barring medical miracles, he has at most a few years left, possibly less. Every day is borrowed time. Every health scare could be the one that starts the final decline. Every moment of confusion or pain could be the beginning of the end. That knowledge, that constant awareness of mortality pressing close, colors everything. William has spoken in interviews about not fearing death itself, but about fearing the process of dying, the potential loss of dignity and autonomy, the possibility of lingering decline. He's seen friends go through horrible final illnesses, watched people he cared about deteriorate mentally or physically before death, and he's terrified of that happening to him. His continued activity and defiance of age is partly about trying to stay vital until the end, to avoid the slow fade that he's seen claim others. The legacy questions are also weighing on William at 95. He's old enough and self-aware enough now to wonder how he'll be remembered, what his lasting impact will be, whether his life mattered beyond the entertainment he provided. Will he be remembered as Captain Kirk, the character? As William Shatner, the complex, flawed man? As a talented actor with an impressive career? As a difficult personality who alienated colleagues? As someone who helped create Star Trek but couldn't maintain the relationships it generated? William has spent his life controlling his image, managing his career, shaping narratives about himself. But at 95, he's losing that control. The narrative is largely set. History's judgment of him is taking shape, and there's less and less he can do to influence it. Future generations will evaluate his life and work without his input, and they'll make their own determinations about what mattered and what didn't, what was admirable and what wasn't. There are moments of grace and happiness in William's life at 95 that shouldn't be ignored. His marriage to Elizabeth appears genuinely loving and supportive. She's been with him through his 80s and into his 90s, providing companionship and care that many people his age don't have. That relationship, stable and enduring where his previous ones failed, is a source of comfort and perhaps redemption after decades of relationship struggles. His continued creativity and productivity are remarkable and admirable. William hasn't given up or resigned himself to irrelevance. He's still writing books, doing interviews, making appearances, staying engaged with the world. His wit and humor remain sharp in public interactions. He can still deliver the timing and verbal dexterity that made him famous. These are blessings that shouldn't be minimized. He has fans who genuinely love him and who appreciate what he contributed to their lives through his work. The conventions he attends bring him face to face with people for whom Captain Kirk was a hero, an inspiration, a source of comfort during difficult times. That impact on people's lives is meaningful and real, even if the interactions themselves are superficial. William's work mattered to millions of people, and that matters even if it didn't translate into the personal relationships he might have wanted. But despite these graces, the tragedy of William Shatner at 95 is real and deep. He achieved extraordinary professional success, but paid an extraordinary personal price. He's wealthy but anxious about money. He's famous but profoundly lonely. He's celebrated but estranged from people who should have been his community. He's physically active but declining and in pain. He's mentally sharp but facing the inevitable erosion of his faculties. He has a wife but has outlived and lost so many others. The man who played Captain Kirk, the hero who always won, who always found a solution to impossible problems, who commanded loyalty and respect and friendship, who represented the best of humanity, is ending his real life carrying regrets that can't be undone, losses that can't be recovered, and the knowledge that the most important relationships of his professional life ended in estrangement and unresolved conflict. The disconnect between Kirk, the character, and William the man, between the public legend and the private reality, between the commanding presence on screen and the lonely old man facing death, that's perhaps the deepest tragedy of all. William spent decades playing a hero who epitomized courage, friendship, loyalty, and triumph over adversity. But in his own life, he struggled with maintaining friendships, often prioritized himself over others, and is confronting the end with regrets about relationships destroyed and opportunities for connection missed. William Shatner's story should have a triumphant ending worthy of Captain Kirk. He should be surrounded by friends who shared his journey, by family members with whom he built deep bonds, by colleagues who celebrated his contributions, by a community that sustained him through the challenges of aging. Instead, at 95, he faces the end largely alone, carrying the weight of choices made decades ago that can't be changed, grieving losses that accumulate like scars, and knowing that time has defeated him in ways that no amount of willpower or legendary status can overcome. That's the heartbreaking truth behind William Shatner at 95. Not that he failed professionally, he succeeded beyond most people's wildest dreams. Not that he lacks recognition or admiration, he's beloved by millions. But that despite all that success and fame and recognition, he's ending his extraordinary life without the things that actually matter most. Deep, enduring friendships, unbroken family bonds, peace with the past, and the comfort of knowing that the people who shared your greatest achievements are there with you at the end. Not dead or estranged, but present and caring. Captain Kirk always found a way to win. He never accepted defeat. He beat the Kobayashi Maru by reprogramming the simulation. William Shatner at 95 is discovering that in real life, some scenarios truly are no-win. Time defeats everyone eventually. Relationships once destroyed often can't be repaired. Opportunities missed don't come around again. The people you took for granted don't wait forever for you to realize their value. And sometimes, the legendary captain who saved the galaxy countless times on screen ends his real journey alone, remembering all the people who should have been there but aren't, carrying regrets that weigh heavier than any starship, and facing the final frontier, the one from which no one returns. With courage perhaps, but also with the heartbreaking knowledge that he's ending his journey very differently than he imagined, and very differently than the hero he played would have. That's the tragedy of William Shatner at 95. And it's beyond heartbreaking precisely because it didn't have to be this way, but now at the end, it's too late to change it. The story is written, the narrative is set, and all that's left is to face the ending with whatever grace and strength remain, knowing that the life lived, remarkable as it was, came with costs that could never be fully paid, and that left debts of relationship and connection that will remain forever outstanding.